There is a specific, quiet kind of exhaustion that sleep simply cannot fix. It is the moment you find yourself sitting in your parked car, staring blankly at the texture of the steering wheel, completely unable to find the energy to turn the key, open the door, and walk inside your own home. The engine is off. The world outside the windows is moving by, but you are frozen. You have spent weeks, maybe months, pouring every single ounce of your spirit, your time, and your attention into your work, your daily responsibilities, and the people around you. Every single demand made of you felt like a tiny, almost unnoticeable withdrawal. A phone call here, a deadline there, a favor for a friend, an emotional crisis managed for someone else. You didn't notice it happening in the moment because you are used to just keeping your head down and pushing through. But now, the account is completely dry. The well is empty, and you are staring down at the dry, cracked earth at the bottom, wondering where it all went. When you hit this wall, the entire landscape of your life changes. The smallest, most ordinary tasks suddenly feel like climbing a mountain without any gear. Deciding what to eat for dinner feels like a massive, overwhelming dilemma that you just don't have the strength to solve. Looking at a stack of unopened mail on the kitchen counter stirs up a heavy, quiet sense of dread in your chest. So you look away and pretend it isn't there. You find yourself standing in front of a flight of stairs, looking up at the steps, and genuinely needing to take a deep breath before you start to climb. It is a deeply lonely place to be, because from the outside, everything looks exactly the same. You are still walking, talking, and fulfilling your duties. But on the inside, the lights have dimmed. You feel like a ghost haunting your own life, going through the motions of a routine that used to mean something to you, but now just feels like a heavy chain you are dragging behind you. You watch other people navigate their days with ease, and you wonder what secret they know that you don't. You wonder how they have the energy to laugh, to plan for the future, or to care about the little things when just holding your head up feels like a monumental achievement. In these moments, a heavy layer of guilt usually settles over the fatigue. You look at your life and think about all the things you should be doing, the people you should be showing up for, and the goals you should be chasing. You start to voice a harsh, critical internal dialogue. You tell yourself that you are being lazy, that you are losing your edge, or that you are fundamentally failing at life. You feel like an imposter because you are supposed to be the capable one, the reliable one, the one who always figures it out. But the truth is much softer and much more heartbreaking than that. You are not lazy, and you are not failing. You have not lost your way, and you haven't ruined your life. You are simply a human being who has run an engine on fumes for far too long, and your system has finally run out of gas. You are completely drained, sitting in the quiet space of your own depletion, wondering how you are ever supposed to keep moving forward when you have absolutely nothing left to give to the world, and even less left to give to yourself. It is a profound, heavy stillness, a state of survival where your soul is begging you to finally stop, to drop the heavy armor you've been wearing, and to acknowledge how much it hurts to be this empty. We live in a world that treats exhaustion like a badge of honor, a world that quietly whispers to us that our rest must be earned. From a very young age, we are taught that our value is tied directly to our productivity, and that to be a good, loving person means to be entirely selfless. We look around and see everyone praising the person who works late, the person who sacrifices their weekends, and the person who never says no. So without even realizing it, we adopt that same rhythm. We keep saying yes because we want to be helpful, because we want to be loved, and because we are terrified of what might happen if we finally choose to step back. We agree to take on that extra project at work, even when our eyelids are heavy with fatigue. We show up for every single social obligation because we don't want to disappoint anyone or feel the sting of missing out. We slowly become the reliable rock, the steady anchor for everyone else's emotional storms, absorbing their anxiety and holding their worries so they don't have to. But there is a quiet, invisible danger in becoming the person who always has it together. When you are always the strong one, people stop asking how you are doing. They look at you and assume that because you carry your burden so beautifully, it must not be heavy at all. They forget to check if you are hurting. And eventually, the people around you stop seeing your exhaustion entirely. But the deepest tragedy is that you might also forget to check on yourself. You become so focused on reading the room, anticipating what others need, and keeping the peace that you completely lose touch with your own internal weather. You ignore the quiet whimpers of your own heart because you are too busy tending to the loud demands of everyone else. You become a master of survival, but you stop truly living. Carl Jung once observed a profound truth about human nature and the cost of self-sacrifice. The most damaging thing in the life of a child is the unlived life of the parent. While he originally spoke of family dynamics and the heavy emotional inheritance we pass down to the next generation, this truth applies deeply to the way we treat our own lives. When we live entirely for our external roles, when we exist solely to meet the expectations of our bosses, our friends, our families, and society, our own inner life goes completely unlived. We leave our true desires, our needs, and our vulnerabilities locked away in a dark room while we put on a brave face for the world. We sacrifice our emotional and physical well-being on the altar of being useful, only to find that we have starved the very core of who we are. It is a slow, painful realization when you look in the mirror and realize you don't recognize the person looking back at you anymore. You have spent so long being everything to everyone that you have left nothing for yourself. You have bought into the myth that your energy is a bottomless pit, that love means giving until there is nothing left to harvest. But a tree cannot bear fruit if its roots are dying in dry soil. And you cannot pour love, creativity, or kindness into the world if you are running on absolute emptiness. This constant giving isn't actual generosity anymore. It is a desperate attempt to prove that you are worthy of existing. A belief that you are only allowed to take up space if you are actively serving someone else. Breaking free from this myth requires a heart-breaking honesty with yourself. It means admitting that you have limits, that you are fragile, and that you cannot save everyone around you at the expense of drowning in your own life. Your mind can try to convince you that you can keep going, but your physical self always keeps an honest, unyielding record. You can use your willpower to ignore the mental fatigue, and you can give yourself 1,000 reasons why you need to keep pushing forward. But your body does not care about your deadlines, your promises, or your guilt. It is a quiet, steady ledger, tracking every single ounce of stress you refuse to look at, every emotion you swallow down, and every boundary you cross in the name of keeping everyone else happy. When you refuse to slow down and take a breath, your body will eventually make the decision for you, staging a quiet rebellion to force the rest you refuse to give yourself. It starts small, with subtle whispers you try to brush aside. It shows up in that persistent, heavy tightness in your shoulders that never seems to release, no matter how many times you try to drop them. It shows up in the way your jaw aches in the morning because you spent the entire night clenching it shut, holding in all the words you didn't say during the day. You feel it in the dull, throbbing ache behind your eyes, or the heavy, lead-like feeling in your limbs when your alarm goes off, making your own bed feel like a quicksand you cannot escape. You find yourself catching every cold that passes by, your system so compromised by chronic survival mode that it no longer has the strength to protect you. These are not random inconveniences or flaws in your biology. They are the physical manifestations of a soul that has been pushed past its limits. We have become so disconnected from our physical selves that we treat these warning signs as enemies to be defeated or nuisances to be medicated away. We drink another cup of coffee to force our eyes open through the afternoon slump. We take a pain reliever to numb the headache, and we scold ourselves for being too tired to focus on our tasks. We treat our bodies like machines that are failing us rather than living, breathing homes that we are neglecting. We demand that they perform, that they carry us through 15-hour days, and that they remain silent while we push them to the brink. But your body is not a machine. It is a deeply sensitive indicator of your inner truth, and when it starts to ache, it is trying to tell you something your mind is too proud to admit. You are hurting, and you cannot keep living this way. This profound exhaustion is not a failure. It is a boundary. It is your system's way of pulling the emergency brake because you ignored the warning lights miles back on the highway. When you are completely drained, your body is simply stepping in to do what you wouldn't do for yourself. It is forcing you to stop. It is telling you that the storage tank is completely empty and that any further movement will cause permanent damage to to your spirit. Healing begins when we stop fighting our physical exhaustion and start listening to it with a sense of reverence and kindness. It means lying down when you are tired, without feeling like you have to justify it. It means recognizing that the knot in your stomach or the heaviness in your chest is a sacred signal, a plea from your deepest self, asking you to finally come back home, to stop running, and to gently tend to the physical vessel that has carried you through every single storm of your life. To truly understand why it is so heartbreakingly difficult to stop when you are running on empty, we have to look closely at the identity you have built for yourself over the years. For so many of us, being resilient, being strong, and being endlessly giving is not just something we do. It is who we are. It is our entire identity. It is what Jungians call the persona, the carefully crafted mask we wear to navigate the world, to protect our vulnerabilities, and to earn the love and approval of the people around us. We wear this mask of the capable one so well that everyone else believes it is our actual face. They look at us and see someone who has it all figured out, someone who can handle any crisis, balance any load, and soothe any pain. And because they believe it, we feel an immense, crushing pressure to keep wearing it, no matter how much it hurts underneath. We become deeply terrified of what might happen if we finally let the mask slip. We fear that if we drop our guard and honestly admit to the world that we are completely overwhelmed, we will disappoint the people who depend on us. We worry that they will look at us differently, that their love for us will change, or that they will see our exhaustion as a weakness. Deep down, in the quietest, most vulnerable corners of our hearts, we are afraid that if we aren't being useful, if we aren't actively fixing things or helping others, we won't be valued at all. We confuse being needed with being loved. And so we keep pushing ourselves to the absolute brink, terrified that stopping will prove we aren't as strong as everyone thought we were. Transitioning away from this exhausting way of living requires a painful, shattering realization. You have become a complete stranger to your own life because you have been too busy taking care of everyone else's. You have built a beautiful home for others to rest in, while you are left shivering outside in the cold. You have abandoned your own feelings, your own hunger, and your own thirst, just to make sure no one else has to feel uncomfortable. In doing so, you have built a wall between your outward appearance and your inward reality. Carl Jung wrote a profound warning about the danger of letting our ideals completely consume our true human nature. Every form of addiction is bad, no matter whether the narcotic be alcohol, morphine, or idealism. An addiction to being the savior, to being perfectly capable at all times, is a dangerous form of idealism that will drain you until there is nothing left. It is a quiet, socially acceptable coping mechanism that keeps us running on a relentless treadmill of endless doing. We use the praise of being reliable as a shield to keep from facing our own deep pain our own loneliness, and our own desperate need for comfort. But you cannot build a real, authentic life when you are constantly hiding your humanity behind the armor of perfection. Admitting that you are tired is not a confession of failure. It is an admission that you are human. It is the moment you finally stop pretending that you are invulnerable and allow yourself to be seen in your beautiful, fragile truth. It is the beginning of learning to love yourself, not for what you can perform, but simply for who you are. Caring for yourself when you are completely drained does not mean booking an expensive vacation, escaping to a far-off place, or completely restructuring your entire life overnight. It starts with something much smaller, much closer, and infinitely more profound. A radical, quiet permission slip to just stop right where you are. It means giving yourself permission to pull over to the side of the road and sit in the stillness for an extra 20 minutes without checking the clock or feeling guilty about the time you are losing. It means letting the phone ring on the counter, watching the screen light up with someone else's request, and choosing to let it go to voicemail because you simply do not have the breath to speak the words they want to hear. It means allowing the laundry to sit in the basket for another night, letting the dishes stay in the sink, and choosing to leave the projects unfinished without judging yourself or calling yourself lazy for it. The world will not fall apart if you step away for an hour, a day, or even a weekend. The projects will still be there waiting for you. The messages can be answered tomorrow. And the obligations will not vanish just because you took a moment to breathe. The hardest part of this pause isn't actually a lack of time. We can always find a few minutes if we are desperate enough. The hardest part is enduring the deep, unsettling discomfort of doing nothing when you have been wired for your entire life to always be doing something. When you have spent years measuring your worth by how much you accomplish, sitting still can feel like an act of betrayal. It can stir up a restless anxiety that whispers that you are falling behind, that you are letting people down, or that you are wasting your life. But you must understand that this stillness is not a waste of time. It is where the healing actually happens. It is the sacred, quiet space where your exhausted nervous system finally begins to drop its guard and reset. When you permit yourself to pause, you are sending a powerful message to your inner self. You are telling your heart that your worth is not conditional on your labor. You are declaring that you have value simply because you exist, not because you are producing, helping, or fixing. It is like turning off a loud, heavy machine that has been humming in the background of your mind for years, and finally allowing yourself to hear the sound of the silence left behind. To give yourself this permission is an act of incredible courage. It requires you to look at all the loud demands of the world and gently tell them, "Not right now." It means sitting with the discomfort of an empty evening and letting your body sink into the couch, feeling the actual weight of your fatigue without trying to fix it or push it away. It is looking at your own exhaustion and saying, I see how hard you've been working. And it is okay to rest now. You don't have to carry the world on your shoulders anymore. In that quiet permission, the heavy armor you've been wearing begins to slip away, and you can finally give yourself the one thing no one else can give you: the gentle, unconditional space to just be human. When your energy is at absolute zero, the very concept of self-care can feel like an exhausting chore, just another heavy item to add to your never-ending to-do list. When you are that deeply depleted, being told to practice mindfulness, go to the gym, or start a new wellness routine can feel like an insult to your fatigue. You do not have the strength for a grand plan of recovery, and you certainly do not have the capacity to completely reinvent your daily life. You do not need to look at the big picture right now. Instead, you only need to look at the next 5 minutes. You only need to survive the exact room you are sitting in, the exact breath you are taking right now. Healing from total exhaustion does not happen in giant, dramatic leaps. It happens in the tiny, quiet reclamation of the micro moment. It means anchoring yourself back into the physical world through small, grounding sensations that require absolutely nothing from you in return. It is the feeling of scalding hot water hitting your tired shoulders during a long shower, and choosing to just stand there under the stream, closing your eyes and letting the steam wrap around you like a heavy blanket. It is the simple weight of a ceramic mug held tightly between both of your hands on a cold, quiet morning. Feeling the warmth seep through your palms and into your chest before you even take a single sip. It is sitting completely still on a wooden bench or a kitchen chair, watching the way the soft afternoon light filters through a window pane and traces patterns across the floor, without trying to capture it, without taking a picture of it, and without trying to turn it into something useful or productive. These micro moments of awareness are the tiny, hidden stepping stones that lead you back to your own life. They are completely safe spaces because they demand absolutely no output from you. They are moments of pure input, moments where you allow the world to gently hold you instead of you constantly trying to hold the world together. When you are washing your hands, you don't think about the bills, the emails, or the people waiting for you. You just feel the cool texture of the soap and the rush of the water over your skin. When you walk outside to grab the mail, you take 3 seconds to look up at the sky and feel the wind against your face, remembering that there is a massive, beautiful world spinning around you that does not care about your deadlines or your anxieties. We have spent so long living in our heads, planning for the next crisis and worrying about the next obligation, that we have completely abandoned the present moment. But your body is always in the present, waiting patiently for you to return to it. By intentionally slowing down to notice these tiny physical fragments of life, you are quietly training your nervous system to understand that right now, in this exact second, you are safe. You are not in danger, you do not have to fight, and you do not have to run. You are just a human being sitting in a room, breathing in and breathing out. These moments are small, almost invisible to the outside world, but to an exhausted soul, they are water in a vast desert. They are the quiet reminders that life can be experienced softly, that beauty still exists in the margins of your burnout, and that you are allowed to rebuild your life one tiny, gentle breath at a time. Reclaiming your energy after hitting total emptiness is not about finding a quick fix to a temporary problem just so you can rush back to the exact same lifestyle that broke you in the first place. If you treat your recovery like a pit stop in a race, hurrying to patch yourself up so you can get back on the track and run at the same dangerous speed, you will find yourself right back in this empty car, staring at the steering wheel, wondering why the exhaustion returned. True healing requires something much deeper, much more honest, and much more permanent. It forces you to examine the very blueprint of your life, to look at the foundations you built your daily routines upon, and to finally admit that the way you have been operating is no longer sustainable. This painful, necessary shift is what Carl Jung referred to as the journey of individuation, the slow, lifelong process of becoming the person you were always truly meant to be, rather than the person the world demanded you become. It is about moving past the rigid structures, the false identities, and the exhausting compromises we made in the first part of our lives just to survive, fit in, and feel safe. Jung noted a profound truth about these moments of intense inner friction. The midlife transition is not a crisis of faith, but a crisis of identity, a time for reclaiming the lost parts of oneself. When you find yourself completely drained, you are experiencing a version of this profound crisis. The old identity, the one that gave until it was bleeding, the one that never set boundaries, the one that prioritized everyone else's comfort over its own survival, is finally failing you. And that failure is actually a hidden blessing. Your exhaustion is not a sign that you are broken. It is a sign that the false version of you can no longer survive. It is a sacred, urgent invitation to reclaim the lost, abandoned parts of yourself that have been crying out for your attention for years. The parts of you that require deep rest, firm boundaries, and fierce protection. This slow road is not easy. It means looking back at your life and grieving the years you spent neglecting your own heart. It means sitting with the discomfort of realizing how much of your energy you gave away to things and people that did not truly value you. But as you walk this path, you begin to dismantle the belief that you only matter when you are producing or performing. You start to realize that you are allowed to have flaws, that you are allowed to be tired, and that you are allowed to change your mind about what you want your life to look like. You begin to piece together a new way of existing, one where your inner peace is non-negotiable. This is the slow, beautiful work of becoming whole. You stop trying to be perfect, and you start trying to be real. You begin to understand that taking care of yourself is not an act of selfishness, but an act of survival and self-respect. You learn to listen to your own voice above the loud, demanding noise of the world around you. This exhaustion is the dark night before the dawn, the heavy soil that a new, more authentic version of you is currently breaking through. You are shedding the skin of who you thought you had to be, and you are gently, slowly stepping into the truth of who you actually are. A human being who is worthy of the exact same love, care, and tenderness that you have so freely given away to everyone else. To protect whatever tiny flicker of energy you have left inside you, you have to learn the incredibly uncomfortable, terrifying art of drawing hard lines. A boundary is not an act of aggression. It is not a declaration of war. And it is not a punishment directed at the people you love. It is something far more quiet and desperate. It is an act of absolute self-preservation. When you are completely drained, you no longer have the luxury of softening your answers or trying to make your boundaries palatable for everyone else. You have to learn to look into the eyes of the people who demand your time and say the hardest words in the human language. I cannot take that on right now. Or, I am so sorry, but I do not have the capacity for this conversation today. In those moments, you are making a terrifying, necessary choice. You are choosing your own survival over their immediate convenience. For a long time, you have likely built your relationships on the foundation of your own endless availability. You were the one who always picked up the phone at midnight, the one who stepped in to fix the mistake, the one who smoothed over the tension so nobody felt uncomfortable. Because of this, the people around you have grown accustomed to a version of you that doesn't have limits. When you finally start drawing these hard lines, they are going to be surprised. They might feel hurt, they might get angry, or they might quietly pull away in disappointment. Watching the people you care about experience disappointment because you said no is one of the most painful, anxiety-inducing things you will ever have to endure. Every instinct inside you will scream at you to take the word back, to apologize, and to sacrifice your peace just to make them smile again. But you have to hold the line. You have to sit with the crushing weight of their disappointment and remind yourself that their reaction is not your responsibility to fix. You cannot spend the rest of your life setting yourself on fire just to keep other people warm. If a relationship in your life only functions smoothly when you are completely abandoning your own needs to keep the peace, then that relationship was built on an illusion. It was built on your compliance, not your connection. Drawing a hard line is the ultimate test of a relationship's truth. It filters out the people who only loved you for your usefulness, and it reveals the people who truly care about your soul. Learning to say no when you are empty is like learning to breathe a completely different kind of air. It will feel heavy, it will feel unnatural, and you will feel an immense wave of guilt the moment the words leave your mouth. You will want to give 1,000 excuses to explain away your fatigue, or to promise that you will make it up to them next week. But you do not owe anyone an explanation for being human. You do not need a medical emergency or a tragic excuse to be allowed to protect your peace. Your exhaustion is explanation enough. Every time you hold a boundary, even when your hands are shaking and your throat is tight with fear, you are reclaiming a small piece of your stolen life. You are teaching the world, and more importantly, teaching yourself, that your time, your health, and your spirit are sacred things that deserve to be guarded with the fiercest kind of love. There is a profound, almost terrifying discomfort in true emptiness. When you finally stop doing, when your energy is completely spent and you lay down your tools, you are suddenly left alone in the quiet with your own thoughts, your own deep grief, and all the unresolved feelings you spent months running away from. For a long time, your frantic busyness wasn't just a schedule. It was a shield. It was a way to keep the noise of the world loud enough so that you didn't have to listen to the quiet ache breaking inside your own chest. The moment you permit yourself to pause, the silence can feel deafening. It is incredibly tempting in that uncomfortable space to reach for distractions, to mindlessly scroll through videos on your phone until your eyes burn, to flip through television channels without watching anything, or to find small, meaningless tasks to occupy your hands just so you can feel a false sense of control. But you must find the courage to resist that urge, because the emptiness itself has a beautiful, sacred value. It is not a void of nothingness. It is a space of deep protection. Think of a fallow field in the dead of winter. To the untrained eye, it looks dead, frozen, and completely useless. It isn't producing anything, it isn't feeding anyone, and it looks utterly abandoned. But beneath the heavy blanket of snow, the soil is doing the most important work of its life. It is resting. It is absorbing nutrients, rebuilding its strength, and quietly preparing for a future season of growth that hasn't even been conceived yet. If the farmer refuses to let the field sit empty, if they force it to grow crop after crop without a break, the soil will eventually turn to dust, and nothing will ever grow there again. If you do not allow your own inner field to sit empty for a while, you cannot expect to yield anything new or beautiful in your life. You have to let the soil rest. Let yourself be empty for a while without trying to fix it, decorate it, or justify it to the people around you. It is okay if you don't know what comes next. It is okay if your days feel unstructured, quiet, and a little lonely right now. This emptiness is not a permanent sentence. It is a necessary buffer zone between the version of you that broke down and the version of you that is currently being rebuilt. It is the canvas waiting for the first stroke of paint, the quiet intermission between the acts of a heavy play. Allowing yourself to experience the empty space means sitting on the edge of your bed and letting the tears fall without needing to explain why you are crying. It means looking at your empty schedule and choosing to see it as a sanctuary rather than a failure. It is the moment you finally stop fighting the currents of your life and let yourself float on the water, trusting that you won't sink. In this stillness, you will discover that you do not disappear just because you aren't doing anything. Your existence remains whole, steady, and beautiful, even when you are producing absolute silence. The empty space is where your soul goes to heal, away from the expectations of the world, away from the demands of your own inner critic. It is a soft, dark room where you can finally close your eyes, let go of the steering wheel, and remember that you are allowed to just exist, exactly as you are, without offering anything in return. As your energy slowly, quietly begins to return to your bones, and it will return if you only give it the sacred space and time to do so. Remember to move with a completely new kind of gentleness. When you have been empty for so long, the first spark of renewed motivation can feel intoxicating. You might feel a sudden impulse to rush back to the front lines, to make up for lost time, and to frantically scoop up all the projects, conversations, and responsibilities you had to drop when you broke down. But you must resist that familiar pull. You do not need to leap back into the fast lane of a world that is always demanding more than you have to give. You can choose a different path this time. You can choose to walk at a pace that allows you to feel the ground beneath your feet, a pace that leaves you with enough room to breathe, to notice the beauty of your surroundings, and to stay deeply connected to your physical self. Stepping forward gently means accepting that you are no longer the same person who walked into that dark tunnel of exhaustion. You cannot go back to your old life because you have outgrown the structures that broke you. You are building something entirely new now. It means that as you start organizing your days again, you build them around your well-being, rather than trying to squeeze your well-being into the tiny, leftover margins of your obligations. It means looking at your morning and deciding that your peace of mind is the very first priority, before a single external request is allowed to pierce your focus. You are learning to move through the world with soft knees and an open but guarded heart. You are learning that it is entirely possible to care about your work and the people you love without sacrificing your own soul on their behalf. Caring for yourself when you have nothing left is not a temporary project with an end date. It is an ongoing, lifelong practice of self-attunement. It is a quiet, daily promise to check in with your own inner landscape before you commit your energy to the outer world. Every single morning, before you answer a message, open a door, or step into a role, you must sit on the edge of your bed, place a hand over your heart, and ask yourself a simple, honest question. How am I doing right now? What do I actually have the strength to give away today? If the answer is very little, then you must honor that truth without an ounce of shame or hesitation. You must adjust your stride to match your capacity, trusting that the world can survive a slightly softer version of you. You are the ultimate keeper of your own energy, the only true guardian of your life force. Honoring your limits, saying no when you are tired, and choosing to rest when the pressure is mounting is not an act of failure. It is the most profound act of respect and love you can offer to the fragile, beautiful person you are becoming. As you take these small, tentative steps into your new future, give yourself grace for the days when you slip up, and give yourself credit for the immense courage it took to survive the emptiness. You have crawled out of the deep well, not by being invincible, but by finally allowing yourself to be human. Trust the slow rhythm of your healing. Walk softly, breathe deeply, and remember that you are allowed to live a life that feels good on the inside, not just one that looks good from the outside. We often think of healing as a destination, a quiet house at the end of a long, treacherous road where we can finally unpack our bags and never have to move again. We imagine a day when the exhaustion will be permanently behind us, when our boundaries will feel natural and easy, and when we will never find ourselves staring at a steering wheel in a dark parking lot again. But the truth of a human life is far more fluid, far more cyclical, and ultimately far more beautiful than that rigid image. Healing is not a place you arrive at. It is a relationship you cultivate with yourself. It is an ongoing conversation between the person you were, the person you are in this exact heartbeat, and the person you are slowly growing into. When you look back at the dark tunnel of your complete depletion, it is easy to view that entire chapter of your life with a sense of regret or frustration. You might look at the weeks or months you spent frozen, unable to produce or perform, as lost time. You might feel a lingering anger toward your own mind and body for giving out on you when you needed them most. But as the dust settles and the quiet spaces of your life begin to fill with a new, gentler kind of light, you can begin to look back at that collapse with a different perspective. That breakdown was not a failure of your system. It was a rescue mission initiated by your own soul. When you were too stubborn to stop, when you were too addicted to being capable to lay down your armor, your exhaustion stepped in as a fierce, protective guardian. It threw itself in front of the speeding train of your old life and forced you to look at the tracks you were traveling on. Carl Jung spoke deeply about the transformative power of the dark seasons of our lives, those moments when the structures we spent decades building suddenly crumble beneath our feet. He understood that these periods of intense disorientation are not random tragedies, but necessary prerequisites for a deeper, more authentic existence. He wrote, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, in order to avoid facing their own soul. When you hit the bottom of your empty well, you were forced to stop avoiding your own soul. You were stripped of the busy distractions, the endless checklists, and the validation of being the savior. And you were left with the raw, unfiltered truth of your own humanity. That pain, as unbearable as it felt in the moment, was the birth canal of your awareness. It was the moment you stopped living on autopilot and started actively participating in the reclamation of your own life. Stepping back into the world after a period of total emptiness requires a radical commitment to a new way of being. The world outside has not changed. It is still just as loud, just as demanding, and just as hurried as it was the day you broke down. The people around you will still have expectations. The deadlines will still loom. And the pressure to perform will still echo through every corner of our culture. The change cannot happen out there. It has to happen within the walls of your own chest. It means that you must become an active participant in your own protection. You must become the person who says, I love you, and I care about your problem, but I love myself enough to not drown while trying to save you. This new way of living will feel incredibly clumsy at first. There will be days when you say yes to something out of pure habit, only to feel that familiar, heavy knot of dread tighten in your stomach the moment the word leaves your mouth. There will be moments when you feel the old guilt creeping back in, whispering that you are being lazy because you chose to take a nap on a Saturday afternoon instead of cleaning out the garage or catching up on your projects. When those moments happen, you must treat yourself with an infinite amount of grace. You are unlearning a lifetime of conditioning. You are rewriting a script that told you your only value was what you could produce for others. You cannot expect to master a new language in a single week. True care for yourself when you have nothing left is about building a life that you do not constantly need to escape from. It is about creating a daily routine that has room for your fragility, room for your silence, and room for your joy. It means finding value in the unproduced hours of your day. It is realizing that a day spent watching the rain fall against the glass, reading a book just for the sake of the story, or sitting quietly on the floor with a cup of tea is a day that was profoundly well spent. These are not wastes of time. They are the moments where the soil of your life is being replenished, ensuring that whatever you choose to create next will come from a place of abundance rather than a place of desperate starvation. As you move forward from this place, remember that your energy is not an infinite resource to be mined by the world. It is a sacred fire that must be tended and protected. You are allowed to keep some of the warmth for yourself. You are allowed to pull your chair up to your own fire and get warm before you invite anyone else to sit with you. You do not owe the world your destruction, and you do not have to prove your worth by how much weight you can carry before your bones begin to break. You have survived the deep winter of your own depletion, and you are standing on the edge of a new season. Walk into it slowly,